I'll get it.
Good morning, Holly.
Morning.
Oh, Robert, I just took a chance on finding you at home.
I'm glad you did.
I'll get right to the point. What was yesterday a routine legal procedure is today a police matter. It's Dr. Gerald's will. Well, Robert, I'm sure you can understand why I can't let you examine Hector Gerald's will for yourself. It's a privileged instrument until I've held a formal reading.
Unless I get a court order allowing you to disclose the contents.
Yes. And now that suicide has been alleged, well, that brings in the police and the coroner. You can get a court order right away, can't you?
In the works.
Well, then I guess I can risk giving you the general nature of the will. There is no large estate involved. His legacy is mainly his scientific work. He named Grant Putnam as his executor, and all papers are to be turned over to Grant. Grant has been informed of that.
Where are the papers now?
Well, I asked him that when he came in to execute the will, and he said they were in his laboratory, and there's some of them in a vault and some at his home.
Lee, you realize the government are going to want to examine those papers with a fine-tooth comb.
Well, yes, I assume that. And of course, as soon as I've received proper authorization, I'll order them turned over. Oh, and there was another provision. He's left some money to the future children of Grant and Celia, and he named Grant and Celia as the trustees.
I'm still so shocked that he committed suicide. When he came to see you about his will, did he seem depressed?
Suicide's only been alleged, love. However, your question's appropriate. Did he seem depressed?
Well, I thought he seemed harassed, you know, like a man under great pressure. But now with his death coming so soon after he executed his will, I was wondering if it was something else.
What?
Well, he was in such a hurry to get it down on paper, you know, get it signed. And at the time, I just figured that's the attitude of a man who's extremely busy. But now I'm not so sure.
Not sure of what?
Well, I mean, isn't it obvious a man who's in such a great hurry to execute his final testament? I mean, he must have a reason. Couldn't he have been contemplating suicide? I'll be standing by, Robert. See you soon, Holly.
Give our best to Gail.
I'll do that. Bye.
Now what?
The tea's still hot. Would you like a cup?
Sounds good, love. Let me take care of this first. Good morning, Dr. Bowman.
I have a preliminary report on my examination of Hector Gerald, Commissioner. I
Good.
assumed you wanted my autopsy done as soon as possible.
Correct. What can you confirm?
Something surprising, Commissioner. There were 2 bullets in the body.
Well, I guess that rules out suicide.
Not necessarily. It could be what we call the reflex action. The first shot could have induced a spasm reflex, resulting in involuntary firing of the second shot by Gerald.
I see.
It's rare, but it does happen.
What's the time of death?
I can't be precise, Commissioner, because too much time elapsed between death and discovery of the body.
Well, give me your best estimate.
Between 1 and 4 o'clock.
What about the weapon?
Captain Ramsey's ordered lab tests on the gun, but from the slugs, I'd say it was small bore, probably 25 caliber.
Let's go back to the slugs you found, Doctor.
2 in almost the same position in the heart.
Yet you still won't rule out suicide.
Not with certainty. The spasm reflex is well recorded in forensic medicine. Thus, the autopsy doesn't prove suicide, neither does it eliminate it as the cause of death.
I see. Well, thank you, Doctor, and thank you for the quick work. If I need to, I'll get back to you.
Mr. Valentine is here, Robert. With 2 other men. I'm sure you'll want your privacy, so I'll make myself scarce.
Thanks a lot.
Agents Potter and Harmon. Commissioner Robert Scorpio, formerly of the WSB.
I need to guess why you're here.
Time, as they say, is of the essence, Robert.
Isn't it always? Shall we? Your microdot.
And the pencil. Very good. Harmon? Now, you should be arriving in Washington by 2 o'clock. When you arrive, you take this microdot directly to our alternate depository. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Well, I see no reason to waste time.
I knocked, but I guess you didn't hear me.
No, that's all right, Robert. Come on in. Have a seat. What can I do for you?
Well, I need to ask you some questions about Dr. Gerald's death. You being closest to him and all, I figured that maybe you could shed some light on the circumstances regarding that death.
I seriously doubt that I can, but I'll be happy to tell you anything I know. Right off the top, I can tell you he never discussed suicide with me.
Okay, let's go back to that area. Before that, though, can you give me your whereabouts at the time of his death?
How can I do that?
Pardon?
I don't know when he died.
Oh, I'm sorry. The coroner estimates between 1 and 4.
1 and 4. Let me think. Well, I was at home with Celia until after 1.
After that?
Yeah, I'd say I was there 20, 30 minutes past 1. Then I left to come here to the hospital.
So I guess you would have reached here around about 2 o'clock?
Ordinarily I would have, but my car broke down on the way.
Did you get it started?
No, I'm not much of a mechanic.
What'd you do, call a tow truck or what o'clock, what?
No, I was just about to do so, and Natalie happened along. She saw me stopped, and she pulled over to see what the problem was.
Go on.
Well, we tried for another 10 minutes or so to get it started, and that's when she hurt her hand.
How did she do that?
She slammed it in the car door. I could see at that point that there was only one thing to do, so I drove her to the hospital in her car.
Was, she badly hurt?
Badly enough that I knew it required immediate attention.
Mm-hmm. Which you, of course, provided.
Yes. As soon as we got here, I took her right into the therapy room.
Well, how was she?
Well, I had to put it in a cast for her, but she'll be all right.
Tell me, is it sort of common for people to go around slamming their hands in car doors?
It happens. As an orthopedist, I've learned that almost anything can happen.
Yeah, that rule sort of applies in my line of work, too. One more point here. You said that Gerald never mentioned suicide.
Never.
And you knew him quite well. I mean, wouldn't you say that you were attuned to his moods?
As you just said, I knew him well.
He never actually came right out and mentioned suicide? I mean, did you have any reason to believe that you might have been contemplating it?
None, Robert. That's why this suicide is all the more shocking.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't depressed?
No. He was overworked, he was harried, but depressed, no.
He was pretty, well, he was more or less alone in the world. Do you think that this bothered him?
Robert, I know for a fact that it didn't.
Why do you say that?
Because your assumption is erroneous. He was not alone in the world.
He wasn't?
No, he wasn't. He had his work, and when he could find time, he had friends.
Friends such as you?
I was proud to have been his friend.
You should have been. He was a fine man.
Yes, he was.
Well, I'm not going to bother you anymore. Thanks for your time and cooperation. Once again, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Robert.
Commissioner, I'm eager to be helpful, but I just can't for the life of me think why you would want to question me about Professor Gerald's death. I hardly knew the man.
Yeah, I realize that. The questions at this point are largely routine. We set out to establish as many points and facts as possible. Even though some of them turn out to be irrelevant, then we try to piece it together.
To what purpose?
Purpose of any inquiry, which is to get at the truth. Now, can you give me your whereabouts, the time we found the body?
Well, I have no idea when he died.
The medical examiner said between 1 and 4.
1 and 4, let me just think.
Take your time.
Oh, no, 1 and 4. That was exactly when I injured my hand.
When you helped Dr. Putnam?
Oh, well, from that comment, then I assume you've already spoken with Dr. Putnam.
Yeah, well, the same way that I'm talking to you, the same way that I will talk to a great many more people before this is over.
Well, then I'm sure he must have told you that when I was driving along in my car, I saw him stranded by the side of the street, and so I got out to see what the trouble was.
He did. Can you tell me where you were going and coming from?
Yes, I was on my way to administer therapy to an outpatient.
But you never got there because of your hand?
That's correct.
I see. Tell me, when you helped Dr. Putnam, did you manage to get his car started?
No, I'm sure he must have told you we weren't able to do that. I mean, we tried, but we were not able to get it started at all, so we just left his car there and then came back here in mine.
Mm-hmm. How'd you hurt your hand?
Oh, that was the silliest thing. I have this really bad habit of always closing my door with my hand on top of the door instead of down on the handle, and I must have been very absent-minded that day or something, and it just slammed shut right on my hand.
Must have hurt.
Oh, believe me, it did.
Do you recall the names of the patients you saw before you left the hospital?
Oh, well, there's no need to recall. I keep a list of all my appointments in my appointment book.
Can I see that?
Oh, by all means.
It says here that you saw Luke Spencer.
Yes, Luke came in that morning.
Routine therapy?
No. He had injured himself during a campaign speech and just came in to have me check out the injury.
Serious injury?
No. Luke is very resilient.
Yes, I know. Well, listen, I won't take up any more of your time.
No, I'm eager to be helpful. It's just that I really didn't know very much about Professor Gerald, I'm afraid.
Nobody did. At least that's the assumption at the moment. Well, listen, thank you very much for your assistance, and look after that hand.
Oh, well, you're welcome, and I thank you. I hope it will be better. Thank you.
What is this, another raid, or you got the troops out here, or what?
No, just here to ask you a few questions about your leg.
Why?
It's part of my investigation regarding Hector Gerald's death.
You think my leg killed him? I thought it was suicide.
Yeah, well, so it seems. At the time that we found the body, you were at the hospital visiting Natalie, I believe.
Yes, I had an appointment with her to check on a small injury.
And did she?
Yeah, she did. It was nothing.
It's my understanding that she treated the injury, then had an appointment and left, and that you waited around for her to come back.
So?
Well, so maybe the injury wasn't that minor. Otherwise, why would you wait all that time?
Well, actually, we never resumed the treatment because she injured her hand.
I know. But still, you waited at the hospital, expecting more treatment.
Mr. Commissioner, I don't find that unusual. I mean, I do have family working at the hospital, my sister, my aunt.
How long does a therapy session with Natalie generally last?
Robert, what is this about?
How long?
Half hour.
But this was a new injury. It must have required more time.
I told you it was nothing.
Well, I'm afraid that neither are your answers. Unless, of course, you're covering for Natalie. I mean, being a friend of yours and all.
Covering what?
You tell me.
No, you tell me. You know me well enough to know that I do cover for my friends. I always have. I always will. But,
What?
Well, these days, Robert, it's very difficult to know who your friends are. Don't you find that?
There'll be no more questions just at the moment.
Celia, I had to drop by to tell you how sorry I am about Gerald. You and Grant must be stunned.
It was a shock, yes, especially for Grant.
I can imagine.
He doesn't say very much, but I know exactly what he's thinking. He thinks that if he had been with Dr. Gerald, it wouldn't have taken it so much.
Well, I understand why he would think that.
The worst part of it, Holly, is that it's probably true. If Grant's security clearance had come through, he probably would have been with him.
Well, Robert mentioned that his clearance had been delayed, but apparently it has something to do with Bunny Willis.
Bunny, what happened with him?
He can't be found.
What?
It's my understanding that Bunny Willis has disappeared off the face of the earth.
Agent Harmon has the microdot in his possession. Agent Potter is covering him. ETA in Washington, $1,400. This is 1-A, over and out. Ah, Robert. Wife had to go out. She was kind enough to let me use your office.
What's the news on Willis?
Negative, nothing.
No forwarding address, no telephone numbers?
Nothing.
Well, what about San Francisco, his friends, his colleagues?
I've covered all those avenues, and the result is still negative.
People just don't disappear. I'm going to start backtracking on Grant Putnam.
Good, yes, do that. Look, I've got to be back in my Washington office by 5.
Okay.
If you turn up anything, could you call me?
Will do.
All right, thanks.
Proceed with inquiry. Right. Who has made inquiries for Grant Putnam in the last 30 days? Last 2 inquiries made by Robert Scorpio? Crazy. Not by me, they weren't. Answer verified. Last 2 inquiries read Putnam made by Robert Scorpio. It's impossible. Inquiry made 4 weeks ago on August 17th, 83. Something wrong here. Reply verified. Inquiry was made by Robert Scorpio and properly covered. Scorpio.
Robert,
Yes, Connie, what is it?
I've been giving it a lot of thought. I'm more convinced than ever that you were right. You know, I think it's a good thing that the disc didn't turn up. Because if it did, it would have been turned over to a mold at the WSB headquarters, and by now it'd be in the hands of the DVX. You know, but for the life of me, I can't figure out why the mole here in Port Charles hasn't tried to deliver it someplace.